Did you know that one of the best ways to connect with the international business community in Georgia is by way of your TAG membership? How would you like to formulate strategic partnerships with international businesses, companies, and leaders, international consulates, and international business chambers, all ready to help you advance your opportunities in the worldwide marketplace? Greetings, everyone, and welcome from the Technology Association of Georgia. It's Friday, June 5th, 2015, and this is Tech Talk. I'm your host, Frank Baia. On this edition, we take a journey around the world without ever leaving Georgia and present a personal invitation for you to join a welcoming, positive business networking environment and to participate in top-of-the-mind events and panels that deliver highly relevant, timely messages for globally minded audiences. It's TAG's International Business Society, IBS, created and designed specifically to support TAG's existing and future members who conduct business in the global marketplace through high-quality programs, sharing of best practices, and contacts. No ordinary business network organization, a unique society that interacts with both state and local government bodies and a world of global, private, and public sector touchpoints that promote international business in Georgia. And did we mention that at the same time develops and provides events and activities all geared to your global expansion? Join us now as we speak with IBS Chairman and the Director of Community Affairs at Jabian Consulting, Senour Reed, and IBS Board Member and Founder and Managing Director of Alliances Progress, Troy Gautier, for an update on IBS, its upcoming events, and a special invite to the Society's upcoming Global Festival. More than an opportunity, it's a chance to greet and meet the city's top international leaders and a rare chance to explore cultures from around the world as well as experience multinational foods, global music, tastings, and global business collaboration. It's a Tech Talk all about how to facilitate economic development and awareness between TAG and the Georgia international business community and how you can go global fast. As we speak with IBS Chair Senour Reed and Board Member Troy Gautier. This edition of Tech Talk is brought to you by GlobalSpeak.com, new media consultants, corporate video and audio communications, video and audio production and distribution, live and virtual event production. TAG TV and TAG Radio is a service of GlobalSpeak.com, creatively delivering powerful marketing, video, and audio solutions. Senior Troy, welcome to Tech Talk.
Thank you, Frank. Good to be with you.
Thanks, Frank.
Well, pretty exciting stuff that we've got going on. I know there's a couple of events that are coming up. One a little bit further out, the festival that we really want to get into, but also an up-and-coming event in June. But before we get into that, Senior, I think so much has happened over the last several years. Certainly, as the IBS has come around and has contributed so much to that growth. But maybe give some of our listeners an indication of just what we mean when we talk about the Atlanta International Business Community.
Well, we'll do that. The International Business Society was rebranded from the Global Sourcing Society about 4 years ago in January, so this is our 5th year. And it's just been an amazing journey for all of us on the board. All the board members have international experience, and Atlanta is just a very robust environment. As you say, it's grown exponentially, I think, starting with the Olympics and certainly Governor Busby's focus on the foreign connections. But there's over 715,000 foreign-born residents in Georgia. 110,000 of those are employed by foreign investment firms. And Atlanta and Georgia enjoys 75 regions from the world here with 122 foreign offices, consulates, trade offices, tourism offices, chambers, and industrial development offices. So incredibly robust environment. The Georgia Department of Economic Development has 10 offices worldwide to support that. The Metro Atlanta Chamber, of course, has their global council that supports this. And then all the media outlets, including the Atlanta Business Chronicle and the Global Atlanta, supported as well. So an amazing environment to actually connect with the world.
You know, I think there's a lot of us that in some way or another would know of an international company, maybe have been involved in a particular society or chamber organization. But when you talk about it from that overall arching of how big and how matured the market has become, I think one of the things also that we'd be fail not to say is the immense amount of fellowship. You know, one of the things that we talked about many, many years ago is that there was a culture of international business. Not just individual cultures, but by just the collaboration and the fellowship of all of these business people having so much in common in terms of world trade, that there's actually kind of a culture that even goes beyond any single country or region of the world. It's actually the spirit of entrepreneurship and the spirit of doing business together. Maybe cover a little bit about some of the activities that, and then we can segue into the, I guess, we're going to talk about the Global Festival, but I guess in order of sequence, we may want to just start with the upcoming event first, and then we'll get into the festival. But before we do that, and Troy, weigh in if you want to take on any of my exploration here, but I guess where I'm going is that it isn't just made up of a lot of verticals as far as countries or consulates. It's really made up of a lot of fellowship and networking that goes on amongst all those people. Senior, Troy, you want to cover that?
Yeah, I'll take the first on that, and then hopefully Troy can weigh in. It is. I mean, it's a global ecosystem here, and you know, we enjoy some of the larger companies from these different foreign countries. IHG is here, LexisNexis, Siemens, Yamaha, Kia, Pilgrims, Muriel, Oldcastle, and then as we were just saying, all the binational chambers have programming that they bring forward that you know, that's part of our TAG IBS mission, is to connect the TAG members to the international programming that's available to us in all of the chambers and consulates and the different groups, as I mentioned earlier, and those are all the chambers, the Gwinnett Chamber being, you know, another one to mention, but all the binational chambers have this programming, and so one of our missions is to connect our TAG members to that with societies and events, and it really is a great opportunity to get involved through those groups as well as to connect with TAG. Troy, anything to add?
No, those are good thoughts. There's a business cultural aspect, and then there's a social cultural aspect, and I find that in Georgia and specifically in Atlanta, it's an extremely dynamic environment, and I'm going to at least one a week. And enjoying food, culture, conversation, and, of course, business.
Well, I think that's one of the things that I think any of us would probably expect, is that economic development is there are no borders for economic development. Everybody kind of does the same thing, only different in terms of either expanding existing industries or inbound investment. Certainly a lot of the locations around the world, almost all of them, are involved in the same startup situations and venture capital and various verticals of technology, fintech, and health IT that we're all growing with. I don't want to miss the point that while we're talking about this rich ecosystem, and that there's a lot of ways that our listeners could make contact with any one of the countries or verticals that they might be interested in, that the IBS represents this great opportunity to touch one place, a touch point that in effect kind of touches them all. Would you say that to be the case, Senior?
Yeah, that's what we've tried to do, to embrace the other groups within the market, because quite frankly there's so many, and that makes us just a little bit different than some of the other TAG societies, in that we're focused, you know, really outward to these other organizations to bring their good programming and people and content to the TAG membership.
And that's a good segue into what you got coming up in June, because that's a reflection of the business side. We'll get into the cultural aspects of it and the festival in a second, but maybe go into what's coming up ahead just in the next few weeks.
Well, let me turn that over to Troy, because his company is sponsoring, and he's put a great amount of work together with Tiffany of TAG, and it's going to be a super event coming up here in June 11th. Go ahead, Troy.
Yeah, and on June 11th in the morning at the Hodges Building downtown, we're having an event called Strategic Alliances to help local firms grow internationally. And so it's co-sponsored by TAG IBS and then also the Association of Strategic Alliance Professionals, and I'm the president of the Southeast chapter of that association. And we are gathering together a panel of experts who are speaking about the opportunity to partner to grow in international markets. It's quite expensive and complicated to grow your business internationally if you have to open an office and hire people and understand the laws and the language and the culture and the business in each of those individual markets. But if you partner with local companies who have always been there, then it's a much easier, quicker, lower risk, and lower cost proposal. So we will be discussing that on June 11th. It's open to the public. TAG members are invited to join the event for free, and 7:30 to 9 o'clock in the morning, and hope to see you there.
Well, it really just kind of reinforces what we were just talking about in terms of, I was talking about fellowship here locally, but really, why travel alone when you can draw an alliance and do best practices, learn from each other, and collaborate to make it more effective and more efficient. So it sounds to me like, once again, a natural as far as what the IBS ought to be doing and should be doing and does so well anyway. And it sounds like you really hit the ball out of the ballpark, Troy. It sounds like a great event. I'm really excited about something that's kind of historical in its nature, I think. And again, guys, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you guys are beginning or already have started a plan for a cultural aspect, the actual cultural awareness of all of the different groups and countries that are represented here in Atlanta. And I think you're calling it the Global Festival. Senior, you want to go into a little bit about the IBS Global Festival that's coming up?
Sure. This is our second signature event. We started the first one, which is a major event for the TAG societies. We did one last year, and it was around education and connecting a lot of the different groups. We were out at Gwinnett College. This year we're going to be at a new venue for it, and we can't announce that yet, but we'll have that for you shortly. But it's basically to bring together all these audiences that we've been talking about in a networking event in the evening with food, different foods from different cultures. We're going to have different music from different cultures. We're going to have ask people if they want to come in their traditional outfits from their countries, the different things that each country can bring forward there. We're going to have some fun with that. It is going to be about business networking and global networking and trying to connect people. And then we're going to put a strategy and really try to execute on it. So often you come to these major events and then they're over and nothing happens afterwards. But we're going to have some strategies that embrace social media, and we tried to do this last year, and we're going to do even more this year to keep that connecting, those connections occurring, so that economic development can be realized and people can develop significant relationships. But real excited about the venue. We just can't announce it right now, but we should be able to in the next couple of weeks. So definitely visit the TAG site. Troy, am I missing anything on the festival? I know we've got a big group of the board working on it, committees, and we're excited about it. We've got sponsorship opportunities, and maybe, Troy, you can mention a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, my firm, Alliances Progress, will be one of the sponsors, and we're delighted to do that. And sponsorship is open to all the companies here in the greater Atlanta metro area. There will be lots of food, lots of drink, lots of music, lots of costumes, and also some great networking opportunities with various cultures around the world.
What a great opportunity.
And,
it's
the actual mailed, who we're mailing to actually to invites, of course, the consulates, the binational chambers, trade offices, and then, Frank, as you know, there's about 2,800 foreign companies here, facilities, and so we're going to be mailing that. We've got a database of about 11,000, so we're going to really try to get the message out. It'll be 300 to 400 strong, we think, that evening, and then everything after that. Well,
we have so many activities, so many events, and now we've progressed into what we call signature events, these bigger, greater opportunities to celebrate particular verticals of one kind or another. This sounds to me like it's going to be one of the premier events of the year when all of that chemistry gets together and all of those kind of cultures and people and opportunities. And like I say, no matter where you come from in the world, there's this commonality of doing business together that, in fact, I kind of want to throw this out to Troy. And Troy, cover a little bit about, I mentioned earlier about how important it is to have friends and not to travel alone. But also I think there's a significant importance in kind of having a familiarity, I guess, with a culture and having a cultural awareness in pursuing global business opportunities. Maybe go into a little bit not only about what I think it's going to sound. It sounds to me, and I'll be there, Senior and Troy, because it sounds like it's going to be absolutely a joy to see all of the food and activities and people and costumes as you've talked about, but also to be able to network with so many great business people. But Troy, for you, give us a little indication from your perspective, just how important is cultural awareness in pursuing global business?
Well, it's very important. Of course, there's language issues, but most people today speak English or English as a second language. But there's also, everything around how to run a meeting, decision-making processes, the way people dress and act, and the way business is conducted. And if you know partners in local geographies, then it's so much easier to grow your business and develop your networks than if you try to do it yourself. And one of the things that has been quite successful with TAG IBS has been the mix of public-private partnerships, the mix of various cultures as we work to develop local business and local economy towards more international opportunities.
Sort of the difference between genius and ingenious, I think it's a case where on one hand we're talking about cultural awareness, and on the other hand we're talking about strategic alliances, and having that kind of, beyond the challenge of moving to global markets, looking at different market situation analysis to determine just exactly what are the right places and how do you go about penetrating into those marketplaces. What a great benefit if you've got the information and the relationships of both the cultural awareness of the places that you're headed for, but also, again, going back, Troy, to what you're talking about, the importance of these global strategic alliances in doing business.
Yeah, that's right. And I think also here in the South, especially the southeast of the United States, sometimes people have the notion that it's, a little bit old style and old form and, traditional, but compared to like the West Coast or some of the other regions. But Atlanta and Georgia is catching up very fast, and we're becoming a technology hub in multiple areas. And the cultural aspects are extremely rich and interesting. And myself, I'm a binational European Union and U.S. citizen. And, I find myself constantly running into foreign nationals all over the place in business and in my social life. And, yeah, it's just a lively environment, a lot of fun, and I'm proud to be on the board of IBS.
Well, that really kind of just goes right into another segue. I wanted to touch base before we get our time runs out, and that's on the TAG IBS Where Georgia Leads International map. I know that we've reached a point now where the cluster of international trade and international business, both public and private, has grown to such an extent that you guys have decided that you're going to really document it all and create an environment that one can look at immediately and indicate just how big and how extensive and dynamic it's become. I'm going to throw that one over to Senior. Senior, tell us a little bit about TAG's IBS Where Georgia Leads International map that you've got on the horizon.
Well, this is really exciting for us, and I have to give Tino and Amanda all the credit at TAG for getting behind us on this. They've had the Where the Georgia Leads campaign and all of the different industry sectors. I think there's 8 available now. We're hopefully going to be the 9th. But, with 39.4 billion goods and services exported last year and 83.7 billion this in imports in the same year, those are dramatic increases over the previous year.
Amazing.
I mean, it speaks to doing something like this. So yeah, the map will have all of the trade offices and binational chambers and the consulate offices, and then we're going to have, I think, Troy, we've settled on somewhere in the 60 to 70 range of international companies. We can't do all of them, of course, with the 2,800 that are here, but we'll do that as a starting point, and it's just going to be very exciting to see. And I think Troy hit it on the head earlier today. We were discussing it. When you see that, or Frank, it may have been you, when you see those maps that TAG has put together that show how many players are in this market as it relates to what we've been talking about and any of the industry sectors that we lead on in Georgia, it's just very impressive.
Well, it's simple, but it's impactful. I mean, the numbers are amazing. I mean, when you talk about some of the things that, but those numbers unfortunately become, it's sort of like hyperbole. We hear so many things about so many billions and so many things. I'm not taking anything away from it from a judgment standpoint, but something as simple as seeing that cluster map and seeing it all in one place all at one time, you do kind of pull back for a second and go, whoa, we do have an international business community. We're quickly running out of time, and I want to do one last call to you guys I think for any of our listeners, there's a lot of exciting things that are already happening with the IBS, a lot of activities that if you're not already involved, or if you're not already involved in global business and are thinking about getting involved in international trade, obviously this is the touch point that you've got to get connected with as soon as you possibly can, because this is the most effective and efficient way to move forward. But before we go, let's do a little pitch, if you will, Senior. How do you get engaged in this event to maximize the return, say, on a sponsorship standpoint? And if I wanted to attend, but I think at this stage, let's focus on sponsorship. What's the benefit out of it, and who should be interested in doing it?
Right. Well, I think if you want to get your brand out in front of the many audiences that we've just discussed and described, because it'll be a part of the actual invite sequencing and also at the event. And then, again, as we say, Troy's had some great thoughts around how we can extend the return on investment for these sponsors after the event. We're going to do a lot of work on that level, and, it's just a great opportunity to get their brands out in front of people that may want some of their goods and services. So, anything on sponsorship you'd add, because you've done a great job in that area for us?
Troy?
Well, just please reach out to Senour, myself, and we're happy to help you through that process. And we need your support, both moral support and financial support, to continue to grow the import-export markets in Georgia. And we feel really good the direction that TAG IBS is moving.
Absolutely amazing.
If I could.
Go ahead.
Just
No,
add
please.
Too, Frank, if I could, that, really have to thank you and Global Speak. I don't know many of the listeners know this, but Frank, you've been involved in the international landscape in Atlanta for quite a long time, and with Global Speak, and you've done so much for TAG, and with your great hosting of the TAG TV and TAG Radio, and also all the other services you provide on major events. So you've been a part of the great success as well, so thank you for that.
Well, you notice how I interrupted you guys several times, but while you were speaking this last point, Senior, I didn't interrupt you. I just felt like, but Senior, thank you so much for that comment. I do appreciate it. Well, hey guys, I was about to say, amazing stuff, really exciting. I'm looking forward to anytime I get an opportunity to go to an IBS event. There's sometimes, you go to some events and you kind of think, there's so many things to do and so many places to go to. But every time it's a home run. Every time there's something that you can benefit and take away from it that's either going to save you money or make you money. And when it gets down to it, that's really where, I guess, the tire meets the road, or maybe the jet takes flight. Thank you so much for all the stuff that you guys are doing, Troy, for the underwriting and sponsorship and the participation on the board. Senior, when you talk about leadership and being a visionary, many people probably don't realize that you created and founded the IBS many years ago, and it's really showing its fruit and in so many different ways. So, guys, congratulations. Heads up and a good show in June. But really, let's all focus together and make this global festival absolutely the biggest event of the year. Thank you so much for taking time out of your schedules to join us today on Tech Talk.
Thank you.
Thanks, Frank.